Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 8th of November, comes to you from London. Quite a lot of red on the screen this morning. Mostly that we're seeing there that the dollar is stronger, so that US dollar bouncing at that 110 level. This is a really critical level for the dollar. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, and the corresponding point and figure targets, 1% log scale, 0.5% log scale, and 0.1% on the 60 minutes. So you've got a long-term, medium-term, short-term view of the market. Immediately we can just assimilate what's happening, and the data I'm running on here is Refinitiv Icon, but of course you can run Updata on dozens of different data services, Bloomberg, Tradeport, lots of different services, Montel, whatever you choose. You can just plug them in on the fly, and you can run on multiple services at once. So it's really just bringing that data that you already have and making more power of it. So we're looking at here at the dollar index, and that 110 level, pretty critical because we are forming these lower highs, and if we go below that 110, that's the beginning of a lower low, and that could be the beginning of the end of this run in the trend. So it's still an uptrend. We're not calling it over. We've got upside targets, but interestingly now we've got some downside targets kicking in. And this 110 level just might be, 115 was the high, that just might be where we top for a while. And of course, we could always go sideways for a long time. We did that and then go higher. And these targets can take years on the long-term charts to kick in. Got my alerts just kicking in there as I speak. So looking at the euro, we are lower against that stronger dollar this morning. So that's still below the cloud on the weekly and the daily. But again, the succession of a higher low and a higher high might be the beginning of a reversal of fortunes, but we do have some very big downside targets still hanging over us, the euro. Looking at the yen is back to 146, 150 is the level at which we see the Bank of Japan intervening. Sterling sitting steady at about 115. So again, below the clouds on the weekly and daily against that stronger dollar, but actually just looking a little bit better on the short term. And we see here, we do have these upside targets quite a bit higher. So the UK market now really awaiting the budget that we're going to hear in the next week. So looking at sterling against the euro, we're sitting steady at around 115, almost exactly the same level as the dollar. No surprises there because we're right on parity with the euro dollar. Bitcoin back below 20,000, really in the doldrums, and has struggled ever since falling through 25,000. And for the moment, it's really game over for crypto. We've got downside targets, and don't be surprised to see new lows there. The S&P was up 1% yesterday. The Nasdaq also recovering a little bit, but still looking pretty bearish. And now we've got 4 downside targets on the long-term chart. It really is quite compelling that we're seeing these targets kicking in, and the upside target's been negated. So it's really quite significant. We've got a downside target of 5% lower on the medium term, and here we're seeing targets of 5, 6, 14% lower. So really we just cannot ignore those targets there, and we'll look at the individual tech stocks in a minute. The futures today, we've got the S&P future up 0.13%, and the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.3%. But again, these downside targets weighing quite heavily there, and so that's really quite key. Looking at the FTSE future today, we're down slightly. So again, just really holding up better than most markets. We really haven't fallen below the cloud here. The oil majors having an impact in the FTSE, but realistically, it will be hard to see that trend being bucked that we're seeing in US markets turning lower. The DAX in Germany is up slightly this morning as well, but again, the charts here are bearish on that weekly chart. Looking a little bit better on the daily chart as we cross through there. We've got some upside targets, but watch for making the lower high and then the lower low. And again, we've got downside targets hanging over us. Japan was up 1.3%, so looking a little bit better there. And again, this market just starting to look a little bit more perky. The Hang Seng has had a really quite strong bounce the last few days. We had 5% days, and we see here a succession of up days. But today we were down very slightly, but that's a really big sort of relief rally off that 15,000 level. So put us back into short-term bullish, but of course the long-term, and this is the thing, is counter-trend moves can often be quite dramatic. The Sensex in India holding that 60,000 level, that upside target activated there. This market looking stronger than most markets, breaking to new 1-year highs. So again, really bucking the trend there. And if we look at the Aussie market, that was up 1/3% as well. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but looking at some of the soft commodities, we've got wheat down 0.24%. So really no big surprises there. We've still got this long-term uptrend, the lagging line above the cloud on the weekly. The daily chart, we're just trying to come through the cloud. So still pretty strong, having come right back, but prices have been in a steady uptrend, despite this sort of spike in prices that we saw in the Russia-Ukraine war. Gold is really struggling, still below that 1,700 mark, and silver is actually holding that that $20 mark. So looking a little bit better on silver. Been watching silver inventories, quite interesting that we're seeing a move there, that interesting that there is going to be a shortage based on the inventories, but we are looking more bullish on the daily, the 60-minute. We've got an upside target there, another upside target, but we're still below the cloud. We really need to break above 25 now, and ultimately 30 to really run in silver. Looking at US 10-year yields sitting at 4.2% after the rise from the Fed last week, so no big surprises there. And looking at Apple, this is the really big one. This 130 level for Apple's really very, very critical, a June low, and we are just seeing short-term weakness there. And again, we've got 3 downside targets. We've got this upside target for Apple, but if we move to that below that 130 level, we negate that. And interestingly, then we've got these downside targets, another one building here as we speak, and that column will also produce one. So it is looking like Apple will also succumb in much the same way that other tech stocks have. I mean, if you look at things like Amazon, for example, really falling away there to new lows, just leading the charge there. 84 was the downside target, given at 107, and that's we're quite close to that now. Now, looking at the energy mix, and first of all, I actually have just a quick look at my at the targets that we're seeing coming in. It's quite interesting just watching these targets coming in as we're speaking. So we've got quite a lot of different targets there. Interestingly, we're seeing emissions just testing that 75 level. That's going to be really critical. And just keep an eye on these targets. They're quite useful just to see what's going on. So here we see the emissions target, new downside target, despite having the upside targets there. Now, looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude down actually just under 1% this morning. Really was looking like it would try and make the 100 mark this week. We had upside targets. We went out as neutral to clients this morning because we had this new target kicking in down to 94.40. So that was in our report out to clients this morning. We've got WTI similarly. This is called a high pole in technical analysis. So we had this high pole where we're pushing up towards the targets, and then we get a new downside target and another new one that's kicked in this morning. So that means that we're still bullish on that 60-minute chart. The daily is bearish. We're just starting to cross. The 100 mark on Brent crude will be really critical, but now we're just seeing that for today we've got negative moves. So it's understanding that we're bullish on the short-term view of a week. We're bearish still potentially on the longer-term view until we break 100, but here today we are bearish. US nat gas down quite substantially, and again we went out there to neutral to clients because we're above the cloud, but downside target. So pulling away there. Coal actually recovering a little bit, but to be honest, it broke that 200 level, and we were bearish coal to clients this week when we were at around 210, and we're just seeing that downtrend continuing. So coal giving up a lot of the gains that we already had. Emissions down 1% this morning. 75 is the really critical level. Notice how we hit resistance there on the cloud, really significant there. And we're also seeing gas prices up quite strongly this morning, 5% on TTF and on MBP as well. So we're just seeing a little bit of a reversal of fortune. No such luck for German power, though. We're seeing here on the Cal 23, we are just pushing lower, new downside target there. And on the Cal 24, which we're starting to watch for clients more closely, we're seeing this just breaking that support level as well. Really significant with downside targets there to watch. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.